Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. So lovely to see you all again. Haven't seen some of you in quite a long time, so it's great that you could join us for our virtual volunteer conference. Before we get underway, we'd like to start off this evening with our traditional land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that the Special Olympics Ontario office is located on the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. This land is governed by the Dish with One Spoon Covenant between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Confederacy of Ojibwe and Allied Nations. This covenant is an agreement to share, work, and protect this land in harmony. Today, this meeting is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work, live, and play on this island. So tonight's speaker is a wonderful longtime friend of Special Olympics. John Scott has had a very, very interesting professional and personal life, and he will tell us a whole lot more as we get into the evening, but I just wanted to highlight a few things for you. John has swam across Lake Ontario twice. He has climbed Mount Kenya and Mount Kilimanjaro because swimming across Lake Ontario just wasn't enough. As mentioned, he was the chair of our 1997 Special Olympics World Winter Games in Toronto and Collingwood. And John has had a very, very successful and distinguished career in corporate finance. And like many of us, he's encountered some stress and some not so fun parts about working, but has got some ideas and some experiences that he's going to share with us this evening. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, John.
Okay, great. Thank you, Cheryl. I am really happy to be here. Thanks for choosing to make time for this, to be together to chat. And I hope I can offer you some thoughts that are relevant and helpful in your own life and the things that are going on in your life. And I'm going to talk about swimming, talk about Special Olympics a bit, talk about success and challenges and a bit of burnout, and then a happier ending is talking a bit about moving out of burnout and to a better place, doing things differently. And again, I hope this is helpful. But to start off, I'm interested to offer you about 10 minutes to do a little breakout. And the idea with the breakout is, well, I'm assuming you all know each other, but if you don't, you could just introduce yourself. But I'd like you to reflect on or share two questions with each other. The first question is, what currently gives you a source of pride and joy and happiness? What's really something that's really great in your life right now? And the second question is, what is currently a source of challenge or upset or something that's hard in your life right now? And I will just say that I want you to be careful about that and just speak to something that you're comfortable with. And I'm not asking you to go into something that might be hard for you to speak about, but just something that you're comfortable speaking about. So something that you're really super happy about, something that's great. And then the second one is to just share something that's currently challenging. So we're going to do a breakout now for about 10 minutes. And I understand Jen is going to put you in a room together, and then we'll come back in about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, if everyone can just accept their room, they'll move over now. Diane, are you able to accept the room? Hi, Kevin. Everyone's just in breakout rooms, so I'm just going to put you in one, okay? You can just accept that. Hi, Marianne. Everyone's just coming back from breakout. You're on mute.
Just realized. Yeah, sorry I'm so late joining. Things were happening here.
It's okay. They're all coming back now.
Do we have everybody back, Jen?
Yeah, they all just came back.
All right, so we'll turn it over to John. You're on mute, John.
Okay, there we go. Right, thanks. Well, that was great. We had a nice group, and the purpose was just to be together for a few minutes in a smaller group and reflect on how we all have some really wonderful things happening in our lives, and we all have challenges. And as I was saying to the group I was in, that from my perspective, it reminds me that we're all more alike than different in that context, that we have great things and we have difficult things. And I think some of the work I've been doing and reflecting in my own life is that kind of honoring them both. So not forgetting that there are great things and great friends and great surprises and wonderful things happening while other tough things are happening. So I hope that was interesting for anybody. If there's anybody who wants to share any quick reflections on that, we have a minute or two to do that. Otherwise, we'll move on. And I guess you could just put up your hand virtually, and then we could unmute you, or Jen could do that. Anybody wants to reflect? Any takers on that? No.
There's no hands up.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to share my screen. I'll just take 3 seconds to figure this out. Okay. So I have a business called Our Human Capital, and it's about how we can optimize our human capital for ourselves and together. And so that's the business that sort of, let's see if I can, oh, there we go. Sorry about that. I just want to get back to the, okay, so this is more great, less grind is the idea. And I'll tell you how I moved to more great from a lot of grind. And hopefully this helps. I've got a slow transition on this. I'm sorry. Okay, let's try it that way. So I'm going to talk about swimming, Special Olympics, overwhelm, burnout, and how I came back from that and experienced more great and less grind. And I think really what I'm trying to suggest to you is that we all have these challenges. We all are going through this life together. And so this is not about necessarily swimming a lake or climbing a mountain. It's more about thinking about our own challenges in life and our own successes and how we move through them. And so I'll dive in, so to speak, into the swimming part and let you know a little bit about that. I grew up close to water up on Lake Huron and enjoyed the water. That led me to competitive swimming. And kind of later in life, I guess around 31, when I first tried this, I'd swam competitively for a long time. Had some good success on that, went to Olympic trials, made a national team a couple of times, but didn't go to an Olympics or Commonwealth Games, but I went to the trials. So I had a pretty good run at swimming, my swimming career. I took a break while I started working and didn't really want to get in the pool anymore because the training was hard and had memories of a lot of work. So I took a break, but got back into masters swimming and I started to enjoy that. And that led me to an interesting experience where a guy named Rick Woods was going to swim across Lake Erie. He was looking for help. Somebody suggested I help him. I didn't really know a lot about long distance swimming, but I helped him. And he wasn't, with all due respect, he wasn't a great technical swimmer, but he had a lot of heart and he worked super hard and he made this double crossing of Lake Erie. And I was in the water with him a lot, sort of being a pacer, helping him and just sort of moral support. So I guess one of the first lessons that I thought about was that applies to all of us, I think, is that when he finished, I thought, wow, this is incredible. This guy swam across Lake Ontario back and forth. And, maybe if he could do it, maybe I could do something like this too. So I think we all sometimes have in our lives this idea, if somebody else can do it, maybe I can. And maybe in the world of Special Olympics, this reveals itself beautifully, where athletes, might, or people with a mental challenge, mental disability may go to an event and see something and say, maybe I can do that too. And I think when we have that open mind, it brings us into an experience we might not otherwise have had. And it can be a really wonderful journey. So Rick swam it. If he could do it, maybe I could. So my mindset was a little bit amped up, I guess. And I thought, well, if you can do it, maybe I can. But how fast could I do it was my mindset. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I might as well, why not try to break the world record? So I set about training to break the world record swimming across Lake Ontario. And the first time I started, I swam into a storm, and there's about 8 to 10 foot waves out there. So Great Lake takes on a really clear meaning when you're out in the middle of a lake and you can't see shore in any direction and you're in 8-foot swells. There's a lot of water out there, and it was a significant storm. The boats were out of control, and I got pulled out after 7 hours and 12 miles. And there was one point where I was down in a swell and I couldn't see the mast of a sailboat that was sort of fairly close to me because of the, that combined height from the depth of the trough to the peak was significant enough that I couldn't see the boat on the other side of the swell. But I got out, and I was actually told to get out, and the swim was over. I was pretty upset, and I sat on the boat and I cried because I thought I'd failed. I put a lot of work into this, a lot of effort. I trained a lot. I took time off work. It was a super big thing for me, and I thought that I'd failed. I thought that this was initially sort of my inability to conquer the lake. So another lesson I thought about was a few days later, I thought, well, failure, what's failure? Failure to me would have been not trying again. And so I made up this little thing in my mind that I was successful up until the point I got out, which sort of means to me that I put my best effort in, and nature has its own way and is not something to fight against, really. So, in life, as a metaphor, the water isn't always warm and calm, and sometimes there's struggles, and we reflected on those a moment ago. So the water wasn't warm, and it sure wasn't calm. It was pretty hard, and I didn't make it. That year, by the way, a 65-year-old lady made it, and some people that I would know, not sort of super closely, but people would say, "Hey, John, wait a minute. I understand a 65-year-old lady swam across the lake, and you didn't, right? You couldn't do it, or you." And I initially I was sort of taken aback by that, But it's all different, right? I was in a storm and she wasn't, and God bless her, she did a great job. But so I reframed. I guess that's a point. I reframed what this event was for me. It was not a failure. It was a strong, big effort, and I just didn't make it. And that was just the fact. It wasn't a failure. It just was a fact. So what am I going to do with that experience? I decided to try again. I changed some things. I didn't like the team. The team was a bit dysfunctional. There's a couple people who weren't really aligned to the ultimate objective. And so I removed them and created a better team. So the second point I have up on the screen is team really matters. And I know that you are a big team together. You have smaller teams in your regions, and you have athletes that you're working with. And so, having a good team and working with a good team is really a joy if it's really aligned to the objective. And so I changed that up. And then the second attempt, I was successful. It was pretty hard. There was 3 foot waves most of the way. The first part I threw up quite a bit. I left at 11 p.m. at night. I had 6 a.m., 7 hours later, I was really feeling quite depleted and frustrated and very cold. And I didn't really know what to do, except I didn't want to give up. I actually am trying to control all the sort of stories that might unfold here and kill some time. But one story was that in that moment, I was so completely exhausted that I thought, well, maybe I'll just stop treading water, because that was even a challenge. So I stopped treading water. And well, if you stop treading water, one thing's going to happen, and that is you're going to sink. So I found the water starting to rise up, my chin and then my mouth. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I sort of shook myself out of that. And I thought, wow, I better get going. In fact, a friend of mine really was the impetus for me to get going. And he said, John, just take one stroke. Just take 2 strokes. And maybe what I'm saying there, sort of in a bigger context, is when we're having a really tough time, just, or you're helping another person through a tough time, just take another stroke, so to speak, or just try to, have another positive thought, or to just do something that's kind to yourself, or go for a walk, or something that sort of moves you forward out of that place, not to deny it, but to move forward. So that helped me quite a bit, and I built up my strength again. And I actually was difficult to stop in the second half. I don't know where the fuel came from, so to speak, because I wasn't eating. They tried to stop me, and I wouldn't stop because I was just so incredibly focused. And I finished stronger than I started. And on that swim, I broke the Canadian record and the world amateur record. But I thought that I could do it faster because there's a guy who had a time that was a bit faster than me, a professional swimmer. I was an amateur. So I tried it the next year. And through this period, I was focused on raising money for Special Olympics. This is how I got connected. The first year, I raised $10,000 for Children's Wish, which is terminally ill children. And then somebody said, hey, John, why don't you raise money for Special Olympics? I said, what is Special Olympics? And so I thought I explored that a bit. But just before I lose track of this, when I was doing my swims, and the second completion, I actually broke the world record, but I didn't know at the time. I swam 8 minutes faster. And I was 2 years older. But I had a formula. I didn't really know it, I guess, but I had a formula. The formula was this. I knew that I had to eat properly to train properly. I knew I had to do a certain amount of exercise to accomplish the goal. I knew I had to get rest, and really good rest. And I knew I had to have a good mindset. So those 4 elements were really critical for me. I would say, sleep, exercise, diet, and mindset were really super important, and they were sort of pretty strongly ingrained, and they allowed me to do the swim. And if I didn't have those, if I didn't get great sleep, or I didn't eat well, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish this goal. So the 4th point of formula really is what supported me to be my best. And I'll talk more about formula later. But I really believe strongly that having a formula, your own personal formula, will help you to be your best. So, Special Olympics, what is it all about? I had this funny experience. This person said, yeah, I'll help you raise a bunch of money if you raise the money for Special Olympics. I said, what is it about? And I felt that if I did this, then people might say, hey, John, wow, that's great. What's your connection to Special Olympic? What's it all about? And I didn't really have a good answer. So I kind of hit pause on that. And I went to a swim meet on Jarvis Collegiate in Toronto to watch a swim meet. I have a lot of swimming background, so I thought I'd check out these swimmers. So I sat in the stands and I brought my stopwatch and a notepad, and I'm thinking, how fast are these guys? That was my context. How fast are these guys? So I was sitting there and I was watching, I think what was a 100-meter freestyle before four lengths of the pool. And one guy came in, he finished, and another guy came in, he was second, and the first guy waited for him. Then some guy was quite back in the field. He finished. I think I recall there's only 3 swimmers, and they all got out and they all hugged each other, high-fiving. And I was thinking, what is going on here? Because in my context, swimming is kind of a solo sport, and there's some nasty competitive elements of sport sometime that are a bit distasteful, at least in my perspective, not always, but so I just thought, what is going on here? And I found myself crying with sort of joy, emotion, and I hadn't started my stopwatch or putting notes down, except I was just feeling this experience. So what I realized in that moment was all the amazing things about sport to me were like busting the roof off this old pool. And there was a complete absence of any of the negative things of sport. And in that moment, I said, yes, I'm into this. I want to be part of this. This is incredible. So I went back to Jim Jordan, Canadian Special Olympics, and a few other guys, and I said, I'm in. So I raised, what was it? $50,000, I think. Anyways, and then on the second trip, some of the teammates the coaches were in a hotel, just a couple of hotels down from where I was having a little reception after my swim, after I got back from the hospital, get checked out. So they heard on the radio some goofy guy swam across Lake Ontario, raised some money. So they came down and they, sort of busted in, and they wanted to say hello, which was awesome. And I wanted to meet them. So that led me to be the honorary head coach, or they offered me the role of honorary head coach to 1993 Special World Winter Games in Austria. I went there and had a reception towards the end. A good friend of mine, Lynn Hallinan, and I were standing there with a glass of wine, and she said to me, John, I think we should bid for and try to host the next Special Olympics World Winter Games in 1997 and bring it to Toronto. And in that moment, I would say completely truthfully that I had this really, really rare experience where in that moment, I just knew that this thing was going to happen. I sort of had this knowing, this flash of whatever. It was just really sort of odd and amazing. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to be great. And every person we went to from that moment on said yes and wanted to help. And we put on what Eunice Kennedy Shriver told me personally was the best games ever to that point. That was 1997. And I was incredibly grateful to, in particular, have that experience available for the athletes. There was some stakeholder things going on in the background, but the biggest issue was creating an event that would be just amazing for the athletes. I think there's 1,800 athletes from 60 countries. And so that was an incredible experience. So I went on to work. After that, things evolved. I got married, had a job evolving. And for some reason, my operating system, like the 1961 version of John Scott said I had to be the best dad, I had to be the best husband, I had to be the best son to my mother, I had to be the best guy at work, I had to win awards for being manager of the year. And in that list, there was nothing about me. It was just looking after me. It was all about this external stuff. So that operating system, however it was built, crushed me, I would say. It didn't work. And I thought it was going to work. And I thought, because I had swum, lakes, and I also swam from Christian Island to Collingwood just in 1996, as we were leading up to the games. First person to do that. And then, as Cheryl was sort of nicely mentioning, halfway through the games, when we're at a real low point. And so it was really challenging. There was some stuff going on. I thought, my gosh, if I make it through it, I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, I know that a lot of people would probably say, if I make this through it, I'm just going to go on a holiday or, sit on the couch and just relax for a bit. But anyways, so I did that. I went and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Mount Kenya as sort of a personal reward. But so what was happening at work, I guess, was I thought I was a tough guy because of all that stuff. I thought, I'm a tough guy. Hey, swim Lake Ontario, climb mountains, no big deal. I don't need the sleep other people need. I don't need, the other stuff. I'm tough. I'm a bit different. And so that was an illusion, which I didn't realize, but it was, my body basically said, no, like, you can't do this anymore. And I ended up with 2 health issues, which were very unpleasant, and they lasted for a while. But and the suffering, there was a lot of suffering. People would say, hey, John, how you doing? I would say, I'm doing great. And then I'd go into the washroom at work and I'd lean up against the wall with a massive migraine headache that was about to explode my head. And I couldn't figure this out. I thought I'd just keep working hard as the answer. And even I was ashamed to tell my wife this. I thought for some reason that if I told my wife that I'm really struggling, that maybe she wouldn't love me anymore, or she wouldn't think that this is the guy I married. And I just felt that I couldn't do that. I felt really alone. And but I didn't know a way out. I just had no way of. I would think, well, tomorrow night I'll get a good night's sleep, and I might have gotten a better sleep, but it didn't help. And I really couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And the good was so far away, I couldn't see it. And then one night I remember I was going to bed and I thought that I was going to have a heart attack. And I thought there was a 50% chance I was going to have a heart attack. And as I say this out loud, I think that's crazy. But at the time I was so completely stressed that I thought that might be a possibility. And, I woke up and carried on and did pretty much the same thing, just worked too much and too much stress, and never really told anybody about it. And that led to burnout, and which I didn't really know what it was at the time, but I just was not successful at managing this at all. And I thought I was a success, but in this category, I was not. And so, the World Health Organization talks about burnout as a work phenomenon, and it's in the list of illnesses, World Health Organization. A lot of people suffer from it. They describe it really in super simple terms here, but it's more complex as depletion, disengagement, and negativism, kind of prolonged or chronic. And what I found, one time I was walking to the subway to go to work. It was about 1,500 meters, and I stopped halfway. I couldn't even. I just had to sit down because my body was racked with just pain, and then these 2 health issues were evolving. So I knew, in retrospect, that like stress, what's going on in our mind, just affects our body, and stress can be a cause of like significant illness and disease and cancer even. It's just a really bad place to be. Just as a bit of an aside, I feel like I could go on a bunch of different tangents, but trying to keep this focused. I think my understanding, stress is good because it alerts us to something. And stress is actually, I've learned that it's a message from the body. Say, you're not aligned. You're not aligned to the right path here, right? Something's off, alert, 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 right? Immediate rich feedback from this organism that we walk around in and inhabit for hopefully a long time. But this evolutionary like miracle that we inhabit is the result of every single success strategy from 4.5 billion years ago. And we ignore it. At least I ignored it, all those messages for a while. And it was just crazy. Like ignore like the finest piece of successful organism in the known universe and just ignore the messages. It's just insane. So, but I did ignore it. And then one day, it was June 28th, 2010. And I was sitting down. I used to journal a lot about how difficult things were and how challenging, and how work was awful. And I was up at 3 o'clock with the kids and they were sick or whatever. And I honestly, I looked at my journal in my phone, and I can't do this anymore. I just cannot do this anymore. There must be a different way to do life than this. There must be a better way. It just doesn't seem right. It didn't seem right to me that life was just about a lot of stress and illness and just grind. And I thought there's got to be a different way to do it than this. So I stopped that journal on that day and I started a new journal. I called it Magical Moments. From that day on, I would write in there anything magical that would come to my mind, as simple as a sunrise or a sunset or holding my child's hand or like 10 seconds of otherwise really lousy meeting at work. And I would think about it and dwell on it. And I would just find the strength to be kind of enriched by that moment of magic, as I was describe it. So I started this Magical Moments journal. I've written a book called My Magical Moments Journal that is basically all about this whole journey. And it's 12 weeks of journaling about magic. So madness to magical, that happened for me. And after about 3 weeks, I was starting to feel better. And I was thinking, that's pretty weird. What is going on? Well, that's neuroplasticity. The brain changes depending on what we dwell on. So I started to think, okay, what's going on here? I'm feeling a bit better. That's good. So what I did was I went deeper into rest. My sleep was shot. I wasn't sleeping well. I was exhausted. So I looked at sleep and I improved my sleep and I felt better. I looked at diet. I went to a nutritionist and got some help on my nutrition. I felt better like within 24 hours from changing a few things, protein primarily. And then I looked at movement, exercise, which was pretty good anyways. I was working out, but I was too exhausted. I was embarrassed. I used to swim. Everybody knew in the pool at this master's club. Everybody knew I was a good swimmer. Everybody, oh, John swimmer. I was like, but I'd go to the pool and sometimes I'd drive into the underground parking lot with the intention to swim. I'd be so completely exhausted, I'd turn around and go home. Or most commonly, I'd go swim in the workout and I'd leave halfway through pretending that I'd say, oh, I have something to do at home, but I was so exhausted, I couldn't finish the workout. And that was embarrassing. I had to make up a, joke about it. They'd sort of laugh at me anyways. So I fixed that. My exercise got better almost immediately with more sleep and more protein in my diet. Then I looked at mindset. I looked at what's happening in my mind, my thoughts, what am I dwelling on, how my thoughts are changing, and I went deep into that. So I had this refined formula. I started to feel better, and after a while, the health issues, one of them went away. Like it was a little bit of time, but it basically went away, never to occur again. And I had these really, really, really bad migraines, which have lessened to be completely random and very mild. So that was amazing. And really what happened was I realized I matter and you matter as well. And we need to, I decided that I need to take care of myself. And the crazy thing is that when I started to take care of myself, I was better at work. I was better for my wife. I was better for the kids. I was better for my mom. And just by a little more self-love, I guess. And that, so, the suffering decreased, the joy increased. And it was because I cared a little more about me. And so that was that. Sorry, I think here we go. So the formula, I'm going to get into the formula. So when I talk about rest, I talk about these three areas. I talk about sleep, obviously, and 7 to 9 hours of sleep is really optimal in that area. If you get less than 7 hours, like regularly, that can become a problem. If you're getting more than 9 hours of sleep regularly, that can also be a problem. And what I found was sleep is not something just to do at the end of a huge, long to-do list. Like sleep is a high performance strategy. We know we feel better when we get a good night's sleep. We look better, we feel better. So I made that a priority. And then I think of recovery too. I think recovery to me means, hey, I had something going on emotional, somebody passed away, some difficult thing, you're into some, tough sort of real life stuff. And we need to be conscious that we need time to recover that, like to expect you're just going to come back and get back on the horse, so to speak. So you need to think, in my experience, about recovery, maybe a little extra time. Why am I so exhausted? I'm mad at myself because I'm so exhausted. Well, think about it. Wait a minute. I'm exhausted because I these things. And so to honor those and acknowledge them as a way to just think about how we can, recover. Micro rest. It's okay to close your eyes. My belief is that it's okay to close your eyes during the day. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to take a break. And I commonly, during the day, I'll just, if I'm feeling tired, I just close my eyes for just a minute or two, is enough to create that micro rest for the brain. 30% of our brain is used for visual sensing. And when you cut that off by closing your eyes, you give your brain a rest, and the body will feel that. So micro rest, it's okay to close your eyes, I think is a really important strategy. So these are what I kind of learned, I talk about, and I've written about, help people with through some coaching. Fuel, diet matters. What we put in our body matters. Like the only thing that fuels us is what we put in our mouth, right? And so I love pizza, but I don't eat a lot of it. I love French fries, but I don't eat a lot of French fries. I love ice cream, but I don't eat a lot of ice cream. And I'm trying to eat more vegetables, but diet matters. Like our body's going to react. Calories matter. Trying to lose weight, or trying to gain weight, or trying to match, exertion. You're exerting yourself more. Maybe you need more calories, the right kind of calories. Hydration is super important. I don't know, something like 70% of us are made of water. So we need hydration. It's important. The third category, movement. Exercise, we're built to move. We feel better when we move. We know that. We go for a walk, we feel better. We move around, we garden, we do sports, whatever it is, endorphins and these kinds of things. We are built to move. We thrive when we move. We're just designed that way. And movement is critical. I'm not, swimming lakes or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just some kind of movement, gardening, walking in nature, favorite sport, favorite activity. Exercise matters significantly to our ability to be well and be happy. So variety matters, doing different things, a lot of different muscles in our body. We can activate them through different variety of exercises, and frequency matters. 1 day a week of exercise isn't going to cut it, but regular experiences of exercise and walks matters. We know that through training, athletes and all that stuff. So this is kind of high level stuff that you know about. Mindset's interesting. I went deep into mindset. Again, this is all stuff that I went deep into. Attention to the right thought. A lot of our thoughts are negative. We have a negativity bias. So typically, even a wandering mind, so we're kind of just like daydreaming, our mind tends to shift to the negative. And, like 50,000 years ago or whatever, if we're all sitting around a campfire and there's a bush that was sort of moving, most of us would take off, like, thinking there's a lion in there. So we would we're anxious and we're easily distracted for a reason, because it's survival. But the person who kind of sat there at the fireplace or at the bonfire and was thinking, well, maybe it's just the wind, maybe it's a rabbit, no big deal. Might have been eaten and dead. So they've got no ancestors. So being distracted, nervous, and anxious is part of our survival strategy. We don't really need it that much anymore. And that's part of this practice of trying to figure out what we're paying attention to. Sometimes we'll find our thoughts take us places that we don't want to go. How did I end up here into this hole of thoughts or depression? So, we can practice that. So attention to the right thought matters. Growth mindset matters. Growth mindset is this idea that we think about learning. So we do an experience and we learn from it, rather than saying, oh, I'm a failure and it's somebody else's fault. So growth mindset is expansive. Sort of fixed mindset, if you will, is the person who says, it's not my fault. The teacher, this was all rigged. The teacher didn't teach me that stuff. It's not my fault. Or running in a race, it's not my fault. The other person got a benefit of some sort. And, it's just fixed mindset people don't usually have the kind of expansive opportunities that growth mindset people have. So something to think about. And I went deep into this idea of gratitude, kindness, and compassion, which I think are three of humanity's like core, completely awesome attributes. Gratitude, how we're grateful for things. So I thought about gratitude and learned to be grateful about the things, rather than, I didn't deny the stuff that was challenging, but I just focused on the things I was grateful for. And kindness, I actually tracked kindness. I went and did random acts of kindness 55 times. And I tracked what happened, and I tried to do it, and I would write notes about what happened. And I found it so awesome. Like, there's one guy, Bill, he was a homeless guy, and I bought him some lunch, and we had a great chat. And then somebody was watching us, and they were smiling. I was smiling. Bill was smiling. It's like all this leverage and kindness. It's actually kind of selfish, I find, kindness, because I feel amazing when I'm kind to somebody. So kindness matters, compassion matters, self-compassion, like being kind, being compassionate to ourselves. And compassion is different than empathy. So empathy is the idea of being really feeling the other person's pain. Compassion is wanting to alleviate that pain. So not really feeling it as much as wanting to alleviate it. So that was my formula. I went through all of this. I felt better. I have a business where I write about this and help people think about these things, and ideally help them to, enjoy their life more. And we deserve to be happy. We deserve to be healthy. We deserve to be joyful, but all at the same time, we know there's difficult things that are at play. So, we can talk about this in a bit, but just, things like a morning routine, breathing, affirmations, this magical question, if everything could change right now, what do I want my life to be like? Dwelling on good facts. What I used to do is fall asleep into madness. So I'd fall asleep into all the things I didn't do well, all the things I'd forgotten. The meeting tomorrow is going to, oh my gosh, that's going to be stressful. I didn't do that. I went shopping and bought like 12 things, but I forgot the eggs. So I'm an idiot, right? It just doesn't help. But that's where my mind goes late at night when I'm exhausted. Instead of saying, wow, I got 11 things. Wow, amazing. I'll get the eggs next time. No big deal. Mindfulness, the idea of mindfulness, some of you have heard that, just the practice of focusing on our thoughts, or focusing on our thoughts to tame them, so to speak, being non-judgmental, walking in nature, be kind to yourself too. And, thank you for listening. We've got more to do. I'm looking at the time. I'm running a little bit long. Essentially, I'm going to stop sharing there. What I think I want to do right now is just take a little break. Some of you may just want to just quickly go to the washroom or grab a drink or something. I'd like you to come back quickly if you can, maybe a couple of minutes, and then I'd want to do just a very short a breathing exercise, and then we'll get into some Q&A if anybody have any questions on all of that. And then we'll do another breakout and then wrap up. So if anybody wants to take a break, let's do that for a couple of minutes and then come back, and I'll just do about 2 minutes on a breathing exercise, and then we'll have some Q&A. All right.
Okay, we'll see everybody back in 5 minutes.
Okay, great.
Jane, have you opened the cottage yet?
We have. So now I have to try and figure out how I'm going to clone myself. Heaven help us to have more than one, so I can be in Stratford and there at the same time.
Yeah.
I think I got it worked out, kind of, but yeah. So it's we're looking forward to it. So in
The
the
bridge is
breakout,
finally open.
what's that?
The bridge is finally open.
It looks great too, eh?
Yeah.
They're taking the other one apart, so they're
Yeah.
stacking up the pieces, which is kind of interesting. So are you up there? Do you have a cottage up that way?
Yeah, we're up closer to Goderich,
So we are the first road. So anybody who's been up that way knows what I was talking. So you missed it in the breakout thing. So my negative thought thing is that our subdivision is being threatened by erosion, right?
Yeah.
And we're lakefront, but we have well vegetated bluff. We have a steel wall and a whole lot of armor stone. So we're in pretty good shape, but only 2 properties down from us, it's really bad. And it's coming north. Thanks very much. It's not going east. It's doing that too, but it's coming out towards us. So that's pretty stressful for us. So
Yeah.
You know where the Blue Water Golf Course is?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're the next road. We're like almost right across. So the guy who owns that golf course, there's another source of stress, is putting in a subdivision between us and the highway
yeah, I saw that.
in like that much property. It's the narrowest area between the highway and the lake, between Bayfield and Goderich. And this guy's got to put in 13 estate properties, 8 on our side. So
Yeah, we've been seeing the building.
unbelievable. Well, he's also building, I think he owns the property at the old Salvation Army camp too. So that's just up from us, a couple of
Mhm.
roads. So that now there's buildings in there too, right? So it's like, how much do you really need to do? But I guess they need to. We fought and we didn't win the war. We won some minor battles, but we didn't win the war. So that's also a bit stressful. But he's not building the houses. They're doing the infrastructure. And
Yeah.
so they've got the roads in, the cul-de-sacs, and they're going to put the services in, but then he's going to sell them, maybe one at a time. So it'll take, I don't know, 20 years to build the 13 estate homes. Great. You can have dirt and noise till I'm dead. They'll be taking me out. Oh man. Anyway, yes, we got the cottage open.
Yeah, the cottage is open.
Now, if my septic guys will come and dig around, that'd be good too. So I got a new fridge and stove,
That's nice.
not stainless steel. White. It's a
Okay.
cottage.
Yeah.
It works. Yeah, it works. Everything. The fridge has to fit in the homemade, under the homemade cupboard. So it has to be like, Anyway, I'm really happy with that.
Good.
So are you open?
Yeah. We don't close, but our
Okay.
water gets shut off on us.
Do you
But we still go up anyway.
have your own well?
No, we're shared.
Okay, well, we provide the water to the cottage next door. So like when we bought this place, it was like the third conversation back and forth with our realtor. He said, oh, by the way, their realtor just told me that, like, next door, that no, I guess no, the realtor of the seller's realtor said, oh, by the way, we provide the water to the cottage next door. And
Mhm.
I said, can you spell Walkerton? I said, there's no way I'm going to be responsible for somebody next door. Well, people do it all the time. And so I said, just, get a formal contract. And I said, well, so then the seller decided I was going to do it, right? Go ahead and do it. We'll lop it off the price. Well, that's great, except when the rubber hit the road, they wouldn't pay for it. So it got split. Are you ready for this? The cottage that we were supplying the water to, which then sold 2 years later, and the two realtors. So they each put in like a third. I find out about it after. It's like, you really wanted to make this sale, didn't you? So Rick really wanted this place, and so that's what we did. But we really like it there. It's great.
Nice area.
Do you have what's your subdivision so I can come and visit?
I'll talk to you later, but I think John's ready to get going.
All right. We're,
Okay, John. Sorry.
No problem. That's good. That's Lake Huron shoreline up there. I love it. It's beautiful. So I thought what I'd do just a little mindfulness practice, really a little breathing exercise. And so I'd ask you if you're open to just following along. This will just take a minute or so. And so mindfulness or breathing, is just this idea of bringing attention to your breath. And I found breathing is pretty awesome. It's better to be breathing than not. And when you really become conscious of your breathing, I find that it's really helpful just to feel a little better. So I'll just ask you to, this is again, just a sort of a practice session, if you will, a little training session for our minds and bodies. So to the degree you're comfortable, I'll just ask you just to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. Just allow yourself to sit and be held by the chair you're sitting in, sitting comfortably, ideally with your back upright, let's say in a regal position or a proud position, not rigid, but upright. And just bring attention to your breath, breathing in through your nose, ideally, if that's comfortable. If not, of course, through your mouth. Breathing in through your nose and exhaling through your nose, if that's comfortable. Just breathing, bring attention to your breath, feeling the breath coming in, filling your lungs, and exhaling, breathing in and breathing out, keeping attention on your breath. You may get distracted, probably will. And that's okay. That would just confirm that you're normal and human. We were built for distraction. So this exercise is, again, just to practice a little bit of coming back to the breath. And when you notice you're distracted and come back to the breath, that's like the chin up or the sit up or the exercise for the brain to create more self-regulation. Breathing in and breathing out, just feeling how good that is. And we know that when we breathe in, we bring in oxygen, which gets fed to our lungs or from our lungs into our heart, into the blood, helps to keep all our cells healthy. And then we exhale carbon dioxide from the blood to the lungs. Pretty miraculous process. Just breathing. Much of the time we're unconscious of our breath, but just allow yourself to breathe. Allow yourself to just relax. Thinking about your shoulders, allowing any tension that might be in your shoulders just to fall away, allowing your shoulders just to soften a bit, allowing your arms just to relax, your body relaxed, just sitting, just being here, nowhere to go, no place to be, just sitting, feet relaxed, legs just at ease, just allowing the body to be at ease for this moment. Coming back to your breath. I'm just going to allow you for a few seconds just to breathe on your own, eyes closed again if you're comfortable, just breathing in normally and naturally, breathing in and breathing out. Keeping attention on your breath, breathing in and breathing out. right? That's just a very short breathing exercise. That's something you can do anytime. You can do it during the day. You can do it in a stairwell or a washroom or at your desk. Just closing your eyes for a moment to just give yourself a little sort of mental refreshment, if you will, a little brain hygiene, just to help yourself, just to calm. So it's a calming exercise. There's a, sympathetic nervous system, which activates this parasympathetic nervous system, which relaxes us. And that's what we just did. So we're like flipping a switch inside our systems just to relax. Okay. Well, great. Thanks for following along on that. And now I'm interested if anybody has any questions. I'm happy to address any questions from what we've covered so far. And I'll leave it for people to put something in the chat if they like, or they could raise their hand. And Jen, I think, could unmute them unmute you if you like. Any questions, comments?
So to raise your hand, guys, is on the reactions icon at the bottom of the screen in case anybody doesn't know. So I'll just put mine up just so you can see what happens when I do that. And then that's what it'll look like for you. Okay. So we have a question from Laura Woodall. Go ahead, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, John.
Hi.
I just want to say from a long way down the road, thank you for the 1997 games.
Oh,
Our skating club is a benefit to a legacy from the speed skating mats, which we still are using as a safety measure at our practices. So, and I have 2 banners that hung at the games still. So just
nice.
it has been a big part of, I know a number of our club members were there and had an athlete racing in 1993 on that team in Austria. So
Wow.
your journey today for the story probably does not, while you try to touch on the struggle, John, I'm sure the stories are, you begin to touch on it, but those lows are probably lower than really you let on today. And sometimes when you're in that low, you don't see the light. So was there a trigger or something that helped be a bright spot that kind of was a tipping point for you, or did it really just evolve?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Well, thanks for all of that. And it really feels good to be connected through your story to 1993 and 1997. So I think there's something odd about humans that it's when we're not feeling well, it's hard to feel better, or it's hard to, it's easier to reach for the chips than a piece of broccoli so when I was feeling bad, I remember one time as a highlight, I was in my daughter's room and she said, "Dad, are you happy?" She was about 6. And I lied to her. And I said, "Yeah, I'm happy, honey." And I wasn't happy. And that really, like, I almost listening to myself, wait a minute, I just lied to my daughter. No, I'm not happy. And the magic, as I describe it, like my daughter, a human being right in front of me, 6 years old. I couldn't even acknowledge how stunningly awesome that is because there was this fog of fatigue. So there was little things that popped up like that I said, wait a minute, this isn't right. I didn't totally know the way out, but I guess unfortunately, it led to this point where I just can't do this anymore. And then there was an evolution. I felt better, and feeling better allowed me to do more, and doing more allowed me to go deeper. So there were hints. The body gives us these messages. And so I think now what I've learned, Laura, is that I'm more aware. So like if I'm not feeling good or I'm mad at myself because I haven't done something, I'm more aware. I'm more able to say, oh, okay, wait a minute, I haven't done that because all these other things. So just be easy. So I've kind of created this awareness that allows me to be a little kinder. So, well, yeah, John, you haven't done that because these other 5 things took precedence. So just take it easy. You'll get that done tomorrow. So I'm more aware. I was less aware. So I built that muscle of awareness, which really helped. Yeah, there were some lows, there were. Thank you for, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for John?
John, I had a question sent to me by a colleague who wasn't able to make it. So I'll just ask you that question on their behalf.
Okay.
So in this now all virtual world that we've been living in for 2 years, the expectation to respond immediately via technology, whether it's a chat on your office chat line, an email, a phone call, a text, and it just never seems to stop. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you slowed yourself down and how you prioritize what had to be done at the moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a current question. And I guess what goes through my mind is, let's try to synthesize this. I guess mindfulness, which I did spend a lot of time practicing, and I do a mindfulness practice every day. The neurological result of mindfulness practice is a development of awareness, noticing. So the reason I bring that up is that we're in this fire hose of incoming stuff that you just mentioned. And I think that optimally, we individually acknowledge that and say, that does not serve me. How can I do this differently? And I'm not going to respond. But I think more broadly in an organization such as yours or others, I think this idea of being conscious, that's another word I like, being conscious, mindfully conscious. Okay, so how's having some ground rules, either individually or as a group, say, unless there's some real emergency, the expectation is not to respond to this. So that's a gift to other people. It's respectful, it's honoring other people and all that stuff. So, but I think I do hear about people getting caught up. I try not to respond to emails in the evening. I think, oh, I'm just going to get this off my mind. I realize I'm just sending it to somebody, who doesn't want to see it till tomorrow. So I think being conscious of what serves us and what doesn't serve us as an individual or as a group can dictate or guide us a bit to better behaviors that allow us to be uplifted when we need to be and not sort of drained, like this slow drain of energy. I hope that helps somewhat.
So some energy management.
Well, energy management, I've talked and written about energy consumers and energy creators, what creates energy and what consumes energy. And that drain of emails or texts or, geez, if all that's an energy consumer and it drains us. So you want to have this idea of net energy, positive energy. What creates energy is doing something in the evening that you love to do or relaxing. That creates energy. And we need to create energy for ourselves because we're so awesome and we've got so many gifts to offer people, and we just shouldn't be giving it away easily. So it takes practice, not easy.
Indeed. Mr. Walker from London.
Oh, I kind of lost my picture there. I think one of the things that in listening to you is as volunteers or in our work lives, I've been retired now 12 years, 13 years, but you find your go, 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 go. And then when you get into the volunteer aspect, these are things that you really love for the most part. And it's like juggling a number of balls. And you I got 2, I got 3, I got 4. And using the balls are fine. Those are like all the good things, working with the athletes and, dealing with some parental issues, that kind of stuff. And then every now and then someone throws in a rolling pin or a water balloon that looks like a ball, and you're trying to deal with this thing and your balance is off. And it's just a matter of managing it. And I just think for me, the one thing is you need to throw one of those balls back at whoever just gave it to you, because you find that you can do maybe 4 or 5, which are great. You get up to 6 and that's okay for a while. And then you can't do that anymore. Then you pitch a ball off to somebody else. And that's what I find for sometimes with volunteer work. There's most of it is pleasant work. Every now and then there's some unpleasant stuff, but every now and then you kind of got to let some of the pleasant stuff go so that you can deal with some of the stuff that's needs more of your mind, your attention. And if you don't do that, then you just say, well, I don't want to do any of this at all, because now it's kind of overwhelming. But
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. And I think the one thing I've learned from this meeting is that it's okay to unwind. It's okay to close your eyes. I'm actually finding that I need more of those quick cat naps just to kind of to deal with personal issues so that I can keep myself recharged. That's all that it is. So
Yeah.
Mine is the juggling of the balls, and it's the odd water balloon that gets thrown in there, or someone throws in a Rubik's Cube or something like that, and it becomes a little more difficult to do. But
Yeah.
just my thoughts.
Yeah, those are great thoughts. Yeah, I like the thoughts, and we need to take care of ourselves, and we don't have to have this huge expectation on ourselves. It's probably just our own doing, not somebody else's. It's okay not to be perfect. I'm sorry, I have lots going on today. I just simply cannot get this done, or can somebody else do it? Is okay. Nobody's going to come to your door and say, Rick, you're a bad person. It's a good model for other people.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Going once, twice, 3 times.
Okay.
Cheryl, I had a question
Oh,
actually.
I'm sorry, Pratima, I didn't see your hand.
I
Go
didn't
ahead.
put my hand up though. No, so firstly, thank you so much for sharing your journey and how you overcame and what successful story you have now. So I had a question, like if an individual or a person is working toward a goal or focus to win, to achieve, and in that moment or situation, they may not be aware that they are in stressful situation. Sometimes you're so goal focused, you don't even realize that you are in stress. So what are the cues one should look for, or to be more aware and mindful in that situation where maybe you're under stress? Like you said, for you, when your daughter asked, and that was the moment and the realization. So would you be able to share like the cues a person should, those are the warning signs or red flags, or how to go about that?
Thank you very much. Pratima, is that your name? How do you pronounce it? Good, thank you. Well, what comes to mind, I guess, is that feeling good. Do I feel good right now? And I think we should be seeking to feel good as much as we possibly can. And I know tough stuff happens. We don't feel good because there's an issue with a loved one. I get that, and not to deny it. I'm not saying we should, but on balance, be feeling good. Feeling good is like good for the organism, good for your body, good for your life, good for everybody around you, right? And so I think one of the signals is I'm not feeling good in this space. In this, I'm training for something, and I don't feel good about. I just don't feel myself, I guess. One of my daughters had some health issues, mental health issues. We went to a doctor and the doctor says, "Why are you here?" She says, "Well, I haven't been myself lately." And I think the self is a place where we really feel good. We're good to ourselves. We're happy, we're healthy, we're challenged, we're engaged. When we're not ourselves, we know it. And that's not a good place to be for very long. So I think the cue is, you feel good or not feel good? That's the best thing I can say right now in this limited time. I'm sorry. There might be more. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, on that note, John, on behalf of everybody here and on behalf of Special Olympics Ontario, thank you so much for all that you've done and continue to do. And for once again, being so generous with your time and joining us this evening.
You're welcome.
I know every volunteer on this call works really, really hard for Special Olympics and is very, very committed and very dedicated. But every now and again, as volunteers, it's nice to just kick back, have some fun, have some laughs, have a cocktail or two if you wish. So if you haven't set it in your calendar to join us tomorrow night for a social and some laughs over trivia, please do. We'd love to see you. And it's nice to just spend time as friends with no commitments, with no job to accomplish, no athletes to care for, no competitions to run, or worrying about getting your treasurer's report done. So if it affords your time tomorrow, please join us and we look forward to seeing everyone. Again, John, thank you and good night, everyone.